The first thing Jonah notices when he walks through the door is how quiet the apartment feels. Not peaceful, just empty in a way that makes small sounds feel exposed. The refrigerator hums. A car alarm chirps somewhere down the street. His shoes land by the mat he's meant to replace for months. Ao isn't in the living room. Her bag sits on the chair, unzipped, one strap slipping off the back like it was dropped in a hurry. Jonah checks the time on his phone, then puts it away without unlocking it. He stands there longer than necessary, as if waiting for instructions that don't come. She's on the balcony when he finds her, phone pressed to her ear, gaze fixed on the buildings across the street. He doesn't hear what she's saying, only the cadence, controlled, clipped, familiar. When she notices him, she turns slightly, lowers her voice, and nods once. Okay, she says into the phone. We'll talk later. She ends the call before he can ask who it was. The phone disappears into her pocket with a practiced motion. You're home early, she says. Yeah. They move inside without comment. Dinner is whatever's already in the fridge. They eat standing up, leaning against the counter, exchanging remarks that fill space but carry no weight. Jonah watches the way she checks her phone between bites, how she smiles at something on the screen and then smooths her expression before looking up. Halfway through the meal, he says it. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough to be heard. I got fired today. The words don't echo. They don't land with the heaviness he expected. Ao freezes for a fraction of a second, so brief it might be nothing, then sets her fork down carefully, as if aligning it with something only she can see. What do you mean? She asks. He tells her. Budget cuts. Immediate effect. He keeps his voice even. He mentions severance without optimism, timelines without urgency. He watches her face as he speaks, searching for something he can't quite name. She doesn't interrupt. She doesn't reach for him either. When he finishes, she nods slowly. Okay, she says. Okay, we'll figure it out. Later, when she says she needs to make a call and steps back onto the balcony, Jonah stays where he is. He stares at the faint stain on the wall from an old picture frame, listens to the door slide shut, and waits. That's when he hears her voice again, lower this time, sharper around the edges. Not panicked, focused. He doesn't move closer. He doesn't move away. He just listens, realizing, with a calm that unsettles him, that whatever he thought he was testing has already begun. And somewhere between the hum of the refrigerator and the muted rhythm of her voice through the glass, Jonah understands that this conversation, whatever it turns out to be, will change the shape of everything that comes next. Jonah doesn't sleep that night. He lies on his side of the bed, eyes open, listening to Ao breathe beside him. Her rhythm is steady, unhurried. He wonders if she's actually asleep or if she's learned to fake it the way he has. The conversation from the balcony loops in his head, not his words, but his tones. The way her voice had dropped when she said, "This changes things." The pause before the plan. He tries to remember if she's ever mentioned a plan before, tries to place the word in any previous conversation they've had. Nothing comes. At some point, he checks his phone. 3:47 a.m. He sets it back down without scrolling through anything. The screen's glow leaves an afterimage on the ceiling. Morning arrives without announcement. Ao's alarm goes off at 6:30. She silences it quickly, rolls out of bed, and disappears into the bathroom before he can say anything. The shower runs for exactly 12 minutes. He's never timed it before, but now he does, watching the seconds accumulate on his phone screen. When she emerges, already dressed, she glances at him still lying in bed. You don't have to go in today, right? She asks. Right. She nods, applies lotion to her hands without looking at him. I'll be back late. There's a thing after work. What thing? Just drinks. Sarah's birthday. He doesn't remember her mentioning Sarah recently. He doesn't ask who Sarah is. Okay, he says. She leaves before he can think of anything else to say. The door clicks shut. The apartment settles back into that specific quiet he noticed yesterday, the kind that feels like it's been waiting. Jonah gets up. He makes coffee he doesn't drink. He opens his laptop, stares at his work email, closes it again. The lie he told yesterday sits in the room with him now, solid and demanding space. He didn't lose his job. He's supposed to be at work right now. His supervisor probably noticed his absence by now, maybe sent an email asking if everything's okay. Jonah doesn't check. Instead, he thinks about the question that kept him awake. What was he testing? He hadn't planned it. The words had just appeared, fully formed, while he sat in traffic staring at a crack in his windshield. But now that they're out, Now that AO's heard them, something has shifted. Her reaction, or the careful shape of her non-reaction, has created a space between what she said and what she might have meant. His phone buzzes. A text from his supervisor. Everything good? You're usually here by now. Jonah types back. Family emergency. Taking a personal day. Another lie. Easier than the first. He spends the morning wandering through the apartment, noticing things he's stopped seeing. The stack of mail AO sorted last week, organized by urgency. The calendar on the fridge with her handwriting marking dates he doesn't recognize. A notebook on the coffee table, closed, a pen clipped to the cover. He doesn't open the notebook. Not yet, but he thinks about it. Around noon, his phone rings. Unknown number. He answers without thinking. Mr. Adeyemi? A woman's voice, professional, slightly cautious. Yes. This is Rebecca from HR. We received your personal day request, but I wanted to follow up. Is everything all right? Jonah sits down on the couch. Yeah, just dealing with some stuff at home. Of course. Take the time you need. A pause. Will you be in tomorrow? I think so. Good. Let us know if you need anything. The call ends. Jonah stares at his phone, at the call log showing Rebecca's number, and realizes he's made the lie more complicated. Now he has to go back to work tomorrow. Now he has to explain nothing while pretending something happened. Or he could make it real. He could actually lose his job. Turn the test into truth. The thought arrives so calmly it frightens him. He sets the phone down. He gets up. He walks to the balcony where AO stood last night, and he looks at the buildings across the street the way she did, searching for whatever she might have seen. His phone buzzes again. This time it's AO. How are you holding up? He reads the message 3 times, looking for subtext in 4 words. Fine, he types back. Just figuring things out. We'll talk tonight. She replies. Promise. He doesn't respond. He watches the 3 dots appear and disappear on his screen, as if she's typing something else, then reconsidering. They vanish completely. Jonah stays on the balcony until the sun shifts behind the buildings, turning the glass facades into mirrors that reflect nothing he recognizes. When AO comes home, not late, but later than she said, she's carrying takeout. Thai food. His favorite, though he can't remember the last time she asked what he wanted. Thought we could use something good, she says, setting the bags on the counter. They eat at the table this time. She asks him about his day in a way that sounds genuine, and he answers with lies that sound the same. They talk about rent, about savings, about how long severance might last. She takes notes on her phone, nodding at intervals that feel rehearsed. We should probably cut back on some things, she says. Just temporarily. Like what? I don't know. Subscriptions. That gym membership you never use. She glances up. Maybe push back that trip we talked about. He doesn't remember them talking about a trip. He nods anyway. After dinner, she goes to the bedroom to change. Jonah clears the table, rinses the plates, and notices her phone on the counter. She left it face up. The screen lights up with a notification. He doesn't mean to read it, but he's standing right there, and the message preview fills half the screen. Did you tell him yet? The message is from someone saved as M. Jonah picks up a dish towel. He dries his hands slowly, carefully, as if the motion requires his full attention. By the time AO comes back, he's putting the last plate away, and her phone is exactly where she left it. She picks it up without checking it, slips it into her pocket, and asks if he wants to watch something. Sure, he says. They sit on opposite ends of the couch. The television plays a show neither of them has seen before. Jonah watches AO more than the screen, the way she pulls her knees up, the way she checks her phone during a scene that's supposed to be tense. At some point, she falls asleep, or pretends to. Jonah stays awake, counting the seconds between her breaths, wondering if this is what marriage becomes. 2 people lying next to each other, performing rest while waiting for something neither can name. Jonah goes to work the next day. He has to. The lie needs boundaries, or it stops being useful. His supervisor doesn't ask questions beyond the expected ones. Family emergency resolved? Yes. Everything manageable? Yes. Jonah sits at his desk, opens the files he left incomplete 2 days ago, and pretends the fluorescent lights aren't making his head hurt. At lunch, he doesn't leave the building. He sits in the break room scrolling through his phone, looking at nothing in particular. A coworker asks if he's okay. He says he's fine. The coworker nods and doesn't push. He checks his messages twice. Nothing from AO except a text sent at 9. Hope today's easier. He doesn't know what easier would look like. By the time he leaves work, the sun is already setting. Traffic moves slowly. He sits in it without impatience, letting the brake lights ahead blur into a continuous line of red. The crack in his windshield catches the light at an angle that makes it look deeper than it is. When he gets home, Ao is cooking. Actually cooking, not reheating, not ordering. The smell of onions and garlic fills the apartment. She's wearing the apron he bought her 2 Christmases ago, the one she claimed was too nice to use. "Hey," she says when he walks in. She doesn't turn around. Dinner's almost ready. Jonah sets his bag down. "You didn't have to do all this." "I wanted to." He doesn't ask why. He goes to the bedroom, changes into sweatpants and a t-shirt, and comes back to find the table set. 2 plates, 2 glasses of water, a candle he's never seen before burning in the center. They sit. They eat. The food is good, better than good. Ao has always been capable of this, he remembers. She just hasn't bothered in months. "How was work?" she asks. "Fine. Busy." She nods, cutting her chicken into precise pieces. "That's good. Staying busy helps." He watches her eat. She takes small bites, chews thoroughly, sets her fork down between each one. It's a rhythm he's seen before, but never paid attention to. Now it feels choreographed. "I've been thinking," she says after a while, "about what we talked about. The money situation." Jonah waits. "I might be able to pick up some extra hours. There's a project at work that could use help, and they're paying overtime." She looks up. "It would mean later nights for a bit, but it could help us get ahead of things." "You don't have to do that." "I know, but I want to help." Her hand reaches across the table, stopping just short of his. "We're in this together, right?" "Right." Her hand retreats. She picks up her fork again. After dinner, Ao insists on cleaning up alone. Jonah sits on the couch, pretending to read something on his phone while listening to the water run, the clatter of dishes, the hum of her voice as she talks to someone on a call he can't quite hear. When she finishes, she doesn't join him on the couch. Instead, she goes to the bedroom, saying she needs to catch up on some emails. The door closes most of the way. Not all the way, just enough. Jonah waits 10 minutes. Then 15. Then he gets up quietly and moves closer to the hallway, positioning himself where sound travels, but sight doesn't. Her voice comes through the gap, low and measured. "I know," she's saying. "I know it's not ideal, but we have to be patient." Silence. Someone responding on the other end. No, he doesn't suspect anything. He's too focused on the job thing. Jonah's breath catches. He forces it to steady. "It's not about the money directly," Ao continues. "It's about timing. If we move now, it looks reactive. If we wait until things stabilize, or at least look like they're stabilizing." She stops. Jonah hears movement, footsteps approaching the door. He retreats quickly, silently, back to the couch. By the time Ao emerges, he's scrolling through his phone again, face neutral. "I'm going to take a bath," she says. "Okay." She disappears into the bathroom. The water starts running. Jonah sits very still, replaying what he heard, trying to fit the words into a shape that makes sense. He doesn't suspect anything. But suspect what? And who was she talking to him again? Someone else? His phone is in his hand before he realizes he's picked it up. He opens a browser, types "divorce lawyer near me," then closes it without reading anything. Opens it again. Closes it again. The bath runs for a long time. When Ao finally emerges, her face is flushed from the heat, her hair damp around the edges. She smells like lavender. She asks if he wants tea. "No, thanks." She makes herself a cup anyway, sits on the opposite end of the couch, and turns on the television. They watch a documentary about something neither of them cares about. During a particularly quiet scene, Ao's phone buzzes. She glances at it, silences it without reading, and sets it face down on the cushion between them. Jonah doesn't look. He keeps his eyes on the screen. After a while, Ao shifts closer. Not touching, but closer. "I'm sorry," she says softly. "For what?" "For not being more supportive when you first told me. I think I was just in shock." She pauses. "I should have asked how you were feeling." "It's okay." "It's not, though. You're going through something difficult, and I made it about logistics." She looks at him now directly. "How are you feeling?" The question hangs there, genuine sounding, perfectly timed. "I don't know," Jonah says. "I'm still processing." She nods, reaches out, and squeezes his hand briefly before letting go. "We'll get through this." "Yeah." They go to bed at the same time that night. Ao falls asleep quickly, or seems to. Jonah lies awake again, staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathe. He thinks about the candle at dinner, the extra hours she offered to work, the hand that almost touched his but didn't quite, the apology that arrived 3 days late. He thinks about the words he overheard: timing, stabilize, move. And he thinks about the question she asked: "How are you feeling?" delivered with just enough concern to sound real, just enough distance to sound rehearsed. Sometime after 2, he gets up carefully, quietly. He goes to the living room, sits in the dark, and opens his phone again. This time, he doesn't close the browser. He reads about asset protection, about legal separation versus divorce, about how long financial discovery takes, about what counts as evidence. He reads until the sky starts to lighten, until he hears AO stirring in the bedroom. Then he closes everything, deletes his search history, and goes back to bed before she notices he was gone. The extra hours start the following week. AO leaves earlier, comes home later. She texts updates throughout the day, meetings running long, deliverables delayed, traffic worse than expected. Each message arrives with an apologetic tone that feels automatic. Jonah responds the way she probably expects: "No problem. Take your time." The apartment becomes his during those extended evenings. He learns its rhythms without her in it. The way shadows shift across the walls, the sounds from neighboring units that only become audible in sustained quiet. He's careful not to search through her things. That feels too deliberate, too much like confirmation of something he doesn't want to name yet. Instead, he just notices. The notebook on the coffee table hasn't moved in days. Her laptop stays closed when she's home. The mail she used to sort meticulously now piles up, unopened. On Thursday, she texts that she'll be home by 8. At 8:15, Jonah hears her key in the lock. She comes in carrying her bag and her phone, already mid-conversation. "I understand that," she's saying, "but we agreed on a timeline." She notices Jonah on the couch and holds up one finger. "Just a minute." She walks to the bedroom, not quite closing the door. Her voice continues, muffled but rhythmic. Jonah stays where he is. He's gotten better at staying where he is. After a few minutes, the talking stops. AO emerges looking tired in a way that seems genuine. "Sorry," she says. "Work stuff." "It's fine." She drops her bag by the chair and sits beside him, closer than she has in days. "How was your day?" "Same as usual." She nods absently, pulling her phone out to check something. Her fingers move quickly across the screen. Jonah watches her face, the slight furrow between her eyebrows, the way her mouth tightens when she reads something she doesn't like. "Everything okay?" he asks. "Yeah." She locks the phone. "Just coordinating schedules." "For the project?" "For the project." That night, Jonah can't sleep again. At some point past midnight, he hears AO's phone buzz on her nightstand. Once, then twice in quick succession. She doesn't stir. He waits, listening, but there's nothing else. In the morning, she's up before her alarm. She's dressed and out the door by 7, saying something about an early call she forgot to mention. Jonah watches through the window as she gets into her car, sits there for a moment staring at her phone, then pulls out of the parking lot faster than necessary. He goes to work. He sits through meetings. He answers emails. At lunch, his phone rings. "Ayo." "Hey," she says when he answers. "Quick question. Did we ever talk about me adding my name to your savings account?" Jonah pauses. "No." "Okay, I thought so. I just couldn't remember." She sounds distracted, like she's doing something else while talking. "Anyway, I was thinking it might make things easier. You know, with the job situation. If something happened and we needed to access funds quickly. I have severance," Jonah says. "And there's the joint checking." "I know, I just meant as a backup. For emergencies." A pause. "We can talk about it later. I have to jump on this call." She hangs up before he can respond. Jonah sits in his car in the parking lot, staring at his phone. He opens his banking app, looks at the savings account he's had since before they got married. The balance hasn't changed in months. He closes the app. That evening, AO comes home at 9:30. No text warning this time. She looks exhausted. Actually exhausted, not performing it. She kicks off her shoes, drops onto the couch beside him, and closes her eyes. "Long day?" Jonah asks. "The longest. You need to eat?" "I grabbed something at the office." She opens her eyes, turns her head toward him. "I'm sorry I keep getting home so late." "You're helping. That's what matters." Something flickers across her face. Gratitude, maybe, or relief. "I appreciate you being patient with all this." Her phone rings. She glances at the screen, silences it without answering. You can take it, Jonah says. It can wait. But 2 minutes later, the phone buzzes with a text. Then another. AO picks it up, reads, types something back quickly. Her jaw tightens. I need to make a call, she says, standing. I'll just be a minute. She goes to the balcony. The door slides shut most of the way. Jonah doesn't move from the couch. He keeps his eyes on the television, volume low, while his attention shifts entirely to the muted conversation happening behind glass. He can't hear the words clearly, just fragments carried by the way AO's voice rises and falls. She's pacing. He can tell by the way her shadow moves across the curtain. Then her voice sharpens, cutting through the ambient noise. That's not what we discussed. Silence. No. I specifically said we needed to wait until. More silence. Longer this time. When she speaks again, her tone has changed. Flatter. More controlled. Fine. But this moves up the timeline whether we're ready or not. Jonah's phone is in his hand. He doesn't remember picking it up. His thumb hovers over the voice recorder app. He doesn't open it. Not yet. He just holds the phone, screen dark, while AO's conversation continues in fragments he can almost piece together. Not about feelings, it's about. Assets have to be clear before. Already told you, he doesn't. The balcony door slides open. Jonah's thumb moves away from the recorder app. By the time AO steps back inside, he's scrolling through something meaningless. Everything okay? He asks without looking up. Yeah, just work being complicated. She sits back down, further away this time. I think I'm going to go to bed early. Okay. She doesn't move immediately. She sits there, phone in her lap, staring at something on the screen that makes her expression unreadable. Jonah, she says after a moment. Yeah. Do you ever feel like? She stops. Starts again. Like we're on different timelines? Like we want the same things, but at different speeds. The question sits between them, strange and specific. Sometimes, he says carefully. She nods slowly. Me too. She stands, leans down, and kisses the top of his head, a gesture that feels borrowed from an earlier version of them. Then she goes to the bedroom, leaving her phone on the coffee table. Jonah stares at it, face down, silent. He doesn't touch it, but he thinks about the words he heard. Timeline, assets, ready or not. And he thinks about her question. Do you ever feel like we're on different timelines? Not whether they wanted the same things, whether they wanted them at the same speed. After 10 minutes, AO comes back out, picks up her phone without looking at him, and returns to the bedroom. The door closes all the way this time. Jonah sits in the near dark, television still playing something he isn't watching, and realizes that whatever test he thought he was conducting has already produced results. He just hasn't decided yet what to do with them. Jonah finds the lawyer's office by accident. He's not looking for it, not consciously. He's driving home from work on Friday, taking a different route to avoid construction, when he sees the sign, Chun and Associates. Family law. He drives past it, then circles back, then sits in the parking lot for 15 minutes staring at the building's glass doors. He doesn't go in. On Saturday morning, he searches the firm online. They have reviews, mostly positive. One mentions their discretion. Another praises their thoroughness in asset division cases. Jonah closes the browser, opens it again an hour later, closes it. By Monday, he's called and made an appointment. Wednesday afternoon, late enough that he can claim a dentist visit if AO asks. The office smells like coffee and carpet cleaner. The receptionist is younger than he expected, polite in a way that suggests she's seen too many people sit in these chairs looking exactly like he probably looks now. Mr. Adeyemi? Ms. Chun will see you in a moment. He waits, reads a magazine without absorbing any words, checks his phone. No messages from AO. Ms. Chun is efficient. She shakes his hand, gestures to a chair, and doesn't waste time with pleasantries. What brings you in today? She asks, pen already poised over a legal pad. Jonah tells her. Not everything. Not the lie about losing his job, not the specific words he's overheard. Just the shape of things. The sense that his wife is preparing for something he's not part of. The conversations that end when he enters rooms. The questions about joint accounts. Ms. Chin takes notes without interrupting. When he finishes, she sets her pen down and looks at him directly. Do you want to save the marriage? She asks. The question catches him off guard. I don't know. That's honest. She leans back slightly. Here's what I need you to understand. If you're here for information, I can give you that. If you're here because you've already decided and need help executing, that's different. But if you're here hoping I'll tell you what to do, I can't. I'm here because I need to know what happens if he stops. If it's real. If what's real. What I think is happening. Ms. Chin nods slowly. And what do you think is happening? Jonah exhales. I think she's planning to leave. I think she's waiting for something, timing, conditions, I don't know. But I think she's been waiting for a while. Do you have evidence? Overheard conversations. Nothing recorded. Nothing definitive. And you told her you lost your job to see how she'd react? He nods. Ms. Chin doesn't comment on the ethics of this. She just writes something down. How long have you been married? For years. Any children? No. Major assets? Property, investments, significant debt. The apartment is rented. We have 2 cars, both financed. Joint checking, separate savings accounts. No major debt beyond student loans that are mostly paid off. She continues writing. In California, you'd need to be separated for 6 months before a divorce is finalized. During that time, assets acquired during the marriage are typically split 50-50 unless there's a prenup. There isn't. Then you're looking at standard community property division. She glances up. Have you noticed any unusual financial activity? Large withdrawals, new accounts, assets being moved? No, but I haven't been monitoring that closely. You should start. Not obsessively, just aware. Check your credit report. Make sure both names are still on everything they're supposed to be on. She pauses. The fact that she asked about being added to your savings account is worth noting. Why? Because people don't usually think to secure assets unless they're planning for instability. Either she's genuinely worried about your job situation, or she's positioning. Possibly. Ms. Chun taps her pen against the pad. Here's what you need to consider. If you file first, you control the timeline and the narrative to some degree. If you wait, she might file, and you're reacting instead of acting. I don't know if I want to file at all. Then why are you here? The question isn't unkind, just direct. Because I need to know what I'm looking at, Jonah says. I need to understand the mechanics of it before I decide whether to. To what? Pull the trigger? See how much further this goes. He doesn't answer. Ms. Chin closes her notepad. Mr. Adeyemi, I've been doing this for 15 years. I can tell you right now that certainty is rare. Most people who sit in that chair want proof before they act. But by the time you have proof, the damage is usually irreversible, emotionally if not legally. So what do I do? That depends on what you can live with. Can you live with not knowing for sure? Can you live with confronting her and being wrong? Can you live with confronting her and being right? She leans forward slightly. And can you live with yourself if you keep testing her instead of just asking? Jonah feels the question settle uncomfortably. I don't think asking will give me the truth. Then you've already decided you don't trust her. Which means the marriage is already in a kind of collapse, whether she's planning to leave or not. The words sit heavy in the room. Ms. Chun pulls out a business card, writes something on the back. This is the name of a financial advisor who specializes in divorce preparation. Not for hiding assets. That's illegal and unethical, but for understanding what you have and how to protect yourself legally. Jonah takes the card. If you decide to move forward, call me. If you decide to try to repair things, I'd recommend a good therapist instead. But whatever you do, don't stay in limbo much longer. It's corrosive. She stands. The meeting is over. Jonah drives home slowly, the business card in his pocket feeling heavier than it should. When he gets back to the apartment, AO isn't there. She texted an hour ago, stopping by the store. Need anything? He responded, no, thanks. He sits on the couch and thinks about Ms. Chin's question. Can you live with yourself if you keep testing her instead of just asking? The answer, he realizes, is that he's not testing her anymore. He's documenting. When AO comes home, she's carrying groceries and wearing a smile that reaches her eyes. She unpacks everything methodically, putting items away in their designated places. She hums something under her breath, a tune Jonah doesn't recognize. I picked up stuff for that pasta you like, she says. Thought we could have a nice dinner tomorrow. Sounds good. She comes into the living room, sits beside him, and rests her head on his shoulder. The gesture is natural enough that for a moment, Jonah almost forgets to question it. I've been thinking, she says quietly. Maybe we should take a weekend trip. Get out of the city. Just disconnect for a bit. When? I don't know. Soon. When things slow down at work. She lifts her head to look at him. Would you want that? Yeah, I would. She smiles, kisses his cheek, and goes back to the kitchen. Jonah stays on the couch, the business card still in his pocket, Miss Chin's words still echoing. By the time you have proof, the damage is usually irreversible. He pulls out his phone and adds the financial advisor's number to his contacts. He doesn't call. Not yet. The weekend trip doesn't get scheduled. AO mentions it once more on Sunday, vaguely, while scrolling through her phone. Then it disappears from conversation the way plans sometimes do. Not canceled, just allowed to fade. Work continues. AO's late nights continue. Jonah's careful observation continues. He starts keeping a document on his phone. Nothing dramatic, just dates and times. Tuesday, 8:47 p.m. Came home. Took call on balcony. Conversation lasted 11 minutes. Thursday, lunch. Asked about refinancing the car loan. Saturday morning. Left for errands. Returned 3 hours later with nothing. He doesn't know what he'll do with this information. He just records it. On Wednesday evening, AO comes home earlier than expected. 6:30. She finds Jonah in the kitchen, reheating leftovers. Hey, she says. She sounds surprised. You're home. Where else would I be? I don't know. I just thought. She sets her bag down. Never mind. They eat together. The television fills the silence between bites. Halfway through the meal, AO's phone buzzes. She glances at it, then turns it face down without reading. You can check it, Jonah says. It's fine. But 5 minutes later, it buzzes again. And again. On the fourth buzz, she picks it up, reads quickly, and stands. I need to handle something, she says. It'll just be a few minutes. She goes to the bedroom. The door closes completely this time. Jonah finishes eating alone. He clears both plates, washes them, dries them, puts them away. AO emerges 20 minutes later, face neutral but eyes slightly red. Everything okay, he asks. Yeah, just work stuff getting complicated. Do you want to talk about it? Not really. She attempts a smile. It's boring anyway. That night, they go to bed at the same time. AO falls asleep quickly, or does her usual impression of it. Jonah lies awake, thinking about the financial advisor whose number sits unused in his phone. He could call tomorrow, set up a meeting, start the process of understanding what separation would actually look like, practically speaking. Instead, he just lies there, listening to AO breathe, wondering at what point observation becomes participation in whatever's happening. Thursday passes like the days before it. Friday arrives with no distinction. Jonah goes to work, comes home, finds AO already there for once, sitting on the couch with her laptop open. Hey, she says without looking up. How was your day? Fine. She nods absently. Her fingers move across the keyboard in quick bursts, pause, then continue. Jonah recognizes the rhythm. She's chatting with someone, not writing a document. He sits beside her, close enough to feel intrusive but not quite touching. Who are you talking to, he asks. She glances over. Oh, just coordinating with Maya about the project timeline. Maya, from work. I've mentioned her before. Jonah doesn't remember a Maya. He doesn't say this. AO types something else, then closes the laptop with a definitive click. I'm starving. Want to order something? They get Thai food again. It arrives 40 minutes later. They eat cross-legged on the living room floor because AO suggests it might be nice to change things up. The food tastes the same as it always does. Afterward, AO suggests a movie. They scroll through options for 15 minutes without agreeing on anything. Eventually, they settle on something neither of them particularly wants to watch. Halfway through, during a scene that's supposed to be tense, AO reaches over and takes Jonah's hand. Her palm is warm, her grip firm. She doesn't look at him, just keeps her eyes on the screen while her thumb traces small circles against his skin. Jonah doesn't pull away. He doesn't squeeze back either. He just lets his hand exist in hers, feeling the disconnection between the gesture and the silence around it. When the movie ends, they stay on the couch. AO doesn't let go of his hand immediately. Instead, she turns toward him, her expression soft in the television's blue glow. I know things have been weird lately, she says. Jonah waits. I've been stressed about work, and I think I've been taking it out on you without meaning to. She pauses. I'm sorry for that. It's okay. It's not, though. You're dealing with your own stuff, and I should be more present. Her thumb continues its circular motion. I want to do better. The words are right. The tone is right. The timing is right. And yet, thank you, Jonah says. She leans in and kisses him. Soft, brief, familiar. When she pulls back, She's smiling in a way that looks genuine enough that he almost believes it. I'm going to take a shower, she says, standing. Don't wait up if you're tired. After she's gone, Jonah sits alone in the near dark, the ghost of her touch still warm on his hand. He picks up his phone, opens his document, types, Friday, 9:34 p.m., apologized for being distant, said she wants to do better. He stares at the entry, considers deleting it, doesn't. The shower runs for a long time. When Ao finally emerges, Jonah has moved to the bedroom. He's lying on his side, facing away from her side of the bed, eyes open. She gets in quietly, settles under the covers. After a moment, she moves closer, pressing against his back, her arm draping over his waist. Good night, she whispers. Good night. She falls asleep like that, her breathing eventually evening out against his shoulder. Jonah stays awake, feeling the weight of her arm across him, wondering if this is affection or strategy or something he can't name. The weekend arrives. Saturday morning, Ao is up early, already dressed when Jonah wakes. She's sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop and a cup of coffee, frowning at the screen. Morning, she says without looking up. Morning. I have to go into the office for a few hours. That okay? Yeah, of course. She nods, takes another sip of coffee, and continues whatever she's reading. Her expression doesn't change. Concentrated, maybe concerned, definitely preoccupied. Will you be home for lunch? Jonah asks. Probably not. I'll grab something there. She finally looks up. But I should be back by dinner. We can do something nice. Sure. She leaves 20 minutes later. Jonah watches from the window as she gets in her car, sits there for a moment looking at her phone, then drives away. The apartment is quiet without her. Jonah makes coffee, drinks it slowly, thinks about calling the financial advisor. Doesn't. Instead, he opens his laptop and starts researching. Not divorce proceedings, he already did that. This time he looks up something else. How to tell if someone is preparing to leave. The articles are predictable. Changes in behavior. Increased privacy. Future plans that don't include you. Financial irregularities. He closes the laptop. He spends the rest of the day doing nothing in particular. Laundry. Dishes. A grocery run he doesn't need to make. When Ao comes home at 7, he's already started dinner. You cooked? She says, surprised. Just pasta. Nothing fancy. Still, that's sweet. They eat. They talk about nothing important. Ao asks about his weekend plans. He says he doesn't have any. She nods and says that sounds relaxing. After dinner, they watch another movie. This time, Ao falls asleep for real, head tilted against the couch cushion, mouth slightly open, the tension in her face smoothed away by unconsciousness. Jonah watches her instead of the screen, studies the way her chest rises and falls, the small crease between her eyebrows that persists even in sleep, the phone that slipped halfway out of her pocket, screen dark and unreachable. He could take it, look through it, find whatever confirmation he's been circling around for weeks. He doesn't. Instead, he pulls a blanket over her and goes to bed alone. Later, he doesn't know how much later, he wakes to the sound of the bedroom door opening. Ao slips in quietly, thinking he's asleep. She gets into bed, stays on her side, doesn't touch him. Jonah keeps his breathing steady and even, pretending he hasn't woken, while Ao lies motionless beside him in the dark. Neither of them sleeps. Both of them wait. Monday arrives with the sense that something needs to shift. Jonah can feel it in the way he wakes before his alarm, in the deliberate quality of the silence while Ao gets ready for work. She leaves earlier than usual. No explanation beyond early meeting. At lunch, Jonah calls the financial advisor. The conversation is brief, professional. An appointment is set for Thursday. Jonah doesn't write it down. He'll remember. That evening, he stops at the bank on his way home. He doesn't withdraw anything. He just asks questions. About account access. About what happens if one person tries to remove another. About notification requirements. The banker answers patiently, without judgment. She's probably heard versions of this conversation before. When Jonah gets home, Ao is already there. She's in the bedroom with the door closed. He can hear her voice, muffled but animated. Not angry. Urgent. He doesn't go to the door. He goes to the kitchen and starts preparing dinner, chopping vegetables with more focus than necessary. 20 minutes later, Ao emerges. Her face is composed, but there's something brittle around her eyes. Sorry, she says. That call took longer than expected. Everything okay? Yeah. just coordinating logistics. She leans against the counter, watching him cook. You're making stir-fry? Yeah. That's nice. She doesn't offer to help. She just stands there, phone in her hand, occasionally glancing at the screen. They eat quietly. Afterward, Jonah loads the dishwasher while Ao sits at the table, laptop open again. He can see her screen reflected in the dark window. A spreadsheet, numbers organized in columns he can't read from this angle. What are you working on, he asks. She closes the laptop partway. Just budgeting stuff? Trying to figure out where we can trim expenses. Anything I should know about? Not yet. I'm still playing with the numbers. Jonah nods. Returns to the dishes. Later, while Ao is in the shower, he opens his laptop. He logs into their joint checking account, something he hasn't done in weeks. The balance looks normal. Recent transactions are predictable: groceries, gas, utilities. He opens his personal savings account. The balance is exactly what it should be. No changes. He closes the laptop before Ao comes out. On Tuesday, he goes to work and functions on autopilot. Meetings happen. Emails get answered. No one asks if he's okay, which means he's hiding it well enough. After work, instead of going home, he drives. No destination, just movement. He ends up in a parking lot overlooking the harbor, watching container ships drift slowly past, their navigation lights blinking against the darkening sky. His phone rings. Ao. Hey, he answers. Where are you? Just driving. Needed to clear my head. A pause. Is everything okay? Yeah, just a long day. Okay. She sounds uncertain. Will you be home for dinner? Probably not. I might grab something. Oh, okay. Another pause. Well, drive safe. I will. He hangs up, sits in the car for another 30 minutes, watching the ships. Then he drives to a diner he's never been to and orders food he doesn't particularly want. He doesn't get home until almost 10. Ao is on the couch, laptop open, phone beside her. She looks up when he enters. Hey, she says. Her voice is careful. You okay? Yeah. Sorry for being out so late. It's fine. I just wasn't sure. She stops. Did you eat? Yeah. She nods. Returns her attention to the laptop. Jonah goes to the bedroom. Changes, comes back out. Ao is on her phone now, texting rapidly. He sits on the opposite end of the couch. They exist in the same space without occupying it together. Eventually, Ao announces she's going to bed. She doesn't ask if he's coming. He says he'll be there soon. After she's gone, Jonah opens his phone. Looks at the financial advisor's contact information. Thursday, 2 days away. He opens his document. Types. Tuesday, 10:17 p.m. Came home late. Ao seemed concerned but didn't push. Then he deletes it. Not because it's inaccurate, because recording it feels like participating in something he's not ready to name. Wednesday morning, he wakes to find Ao already gone. A note on the counter, had to go in early. See you tonight. Her handwriting is neat, precise. The dot over the I in tonight is a perfect circle. Jonah makes coffee, reads the note again, throws it away. At work, his supervisor stops by his desk. You've been quiet lately, she says. Not accusatory, observational. Just focused, Jonah replies. Well, your work is solid. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. She pauses. But if you need anything, you know where to find me. He thanks her. She leaves. That evening, Ao comes home at a reasonable hour. She suggests they order pizza and watch something mindless. They do. The pizza is good. The show is forgettable. They sit on opposite ends of the couch, occasionally laughing at the same moments. During a commercial break, Ao turns to him. Can I ask you something? Sure. Do you still love me? The question arrives without preamble, direct and unadorned. Jonah looks at her. At the way she's sitting, legs tucked under her, hands folded in her lap, face open in a way that could be genuine vulnerability or skilled performance. Yes, he says, because it's true, or was true, or might still be true under different circumstances. Even with everything that's been happening. What's been happening? She glances away. I don't know. It just feels like we're drifting. Are we? I don't know. Are we? The conversation circles back on itself. Neither of them pushes further. Eventually, Ao says she's tired and goes to bed. Jonah stays up, the question hanging in the air long after she's gone. Do you still love me? He thinks about Ms. Chen's words. By the time you have proof, the damage is usually irreversible. He thinks about the spreadsheet on Ao's laptop, the columns of numbers he couldn't read. He thinks about the appointment tomorrow with the financial advisor, the step that will make this real in a way it hasn't been yet. Thursday morning arrives. Jonah tells Ao he has a dentist appointment. She doesn't question it. The financial advisor's office is smaller than the lawyer's, less formal. The advisor himself, Robert Chun, no relation to Ms. Chun, is straightforward and methodical. "I'm not here to tell you what to do," Robert says after Jonah explains the situation. "I'm here to help you understand what you have and how to protect it legally." They go through everything. Bank accounts, retirement funds, the cars, student loans, credit card debt. "Your situation is relatively simple," Robert says. "No property, no kids, debts are manageable. If it comes to divorce, you're looking at a fairly clean split. And if I want to protect my savings, it's already in your name only, which helps. But anything earned during the marriage is technically community property in California. If she can prove she contributed to household expenses while you were saving." "She can." Robert nods. "Then she'd have a claim to some portion. Not all of it, but some." He leans back. "The real question is whether you want to position defensively now or wait and see what happens." What does positioning defensively look like? Opening a separate account. Moving funds gradually. Nothing that looks like hiding assets. Just prudent financial management. Documenting expenses. Making sure you have copies of everything. Bank statements, tax returns, titles, registration. Jonah listens. Takes mental notes. Doesn't commit to anything. "One more thing," Robert says. "If you're going to do this, if you're going to prepare, you need to decide soon. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes to make moves that look reasonable rather than reactive." After the appointment, Jonah sits in his car, opens his banking app, stares at the balance in his savings account. He could open a new account right now, transfer half, have it done before he gets home. Instead, he closes the app and drives to work. That evening, Ao is cooking when he gets home. Actual cooking, like she used to do. The apartment smells like garlic and butter. "Hey," she says, smiling. "How was the dentist?" "Fine. No cavities." "Good." She plates the food, chicken piccata, roasted vegetables, rice. They eat at the table. The food is excellent. The conversation is pleasant. Ao asks about work. Jonah asks about her project. They discuss a news story they both heard. They laugh at something neither of them will remember tomorrow. After dinner, they do dishes together. Ao washes, Jonah dries. Their rhythm is practiced, automatic. When they're done, Ao turns to him. "I'm glad we're doing this." "Doing what?" "Being normal. Just us." She touches his arm. "I feel like we haven't been us in a while." "Yeah." She leans in and kisses him. Longer than last time. When she pulls back, her eyes search his face for something. "Come to bed," she says. Not a command. An invitation. "In a bit." She nods, squeezes his hand, and leaves. Jonah stands in the kitchen, the dish towel still in his hands. He thinks about the financial advisor's words. "You need to decide soon." He thinks about Ao's question from last night. "Do you still love me?" He thinks about the answer he gave. "Yes," and wonders if it was true or just easier than the alternative. Then he opens his phone and creates a new contact. The name of a different bank. The one Robert recommended. The one where no one would think to look. He doesn't call yet, but he saves the number. Friday morning, Jonah opens a new savings account. Online. Simple. The process takes 12 minutes. He transfers a third of his savings into it. Not enough to alarm anyone checking balances casually. Just enough to feel like preparation instead of paranoia. When he's done, he closes the browser and goes to work. Ao texts around noon. "Lunch?" He stares at the message. She hasn't asked to have lunch together in months. "Can't today. Swamped with deadlines." "Okay. Dinner then?" "I'll cook again." "Sure." Three dots appear, linger, disappear. No follow-up message arrives. At 3 p.m., Jonah receives an email notification. His joint checking account has a new authorized user request pending. Ao wants to add herself to his personal savings account. He reads the email twice. Then he denies the request. His phone rings immediately. "Ao." "Hey," he answers. "Did you just deny my request?" Her voice is controlled but tight. "What request?" "For the savings account. I got a notification that it was denied." "Oh." He pauses. "Yeah. I thought we talked about this. I don't think it's necessary." "I'm not trying to take your money, Jonah. I just thought it made sense to have access in case something happened." "Like what?" "I don't know. An emergency. Medical bills. Anything." We have the joint checking for that. Silence on her end. He can hear her breathing, measuring her response. Okay, she says finally. I just thought it would be easier. But if you don't want to, that's fine. It's not about not wanting to. It's just, no, I get it. It's your money. You want to keep it separate. Her tone has shifted. Not angry. Resigned. I'll see you tonight. She hangs up before he can respond. Jonah sits at his desk, staring at his phone. Around him, colleagues move through their afternoon routines, oblivious. He leaves work early. Doesn't tell anyone. Just collects his things and walks out. He drives to the apartment, but doesn't go inside. He sits in the parking lot, engine off, watching the building entrance. At 5:47, Ao's car pulls in. She parks 3 spaces away from his. She doesn't notice him sitting there. She gets out, checks her phone, types something. Then she makes a call. Even from this distance, Jonah can see the shift in her posture, shoulders back, chin up, the body language of someone entering a difficult conversation. She paces while she talks. Her free hand gestures sharply at nothing. After 3 minutes, she stops moving. Her head drops slightly. She listens to whoever's speaking. When the call ends, she stands there for another minute, phone hanging loose at her side. Then she walks toward the building entrance. Jonah waits 5 minutes before getting out of his car. When he enters the apartment, Ao is in the kitchen, unpacking groceries with aggressive efficiency. Hey, he says. She glances over. Hey, need help? I've got it. He stands in the doorway, watching her slam cabinet doors harder than necessary. Are you okay? He asks. Fine. You don't seem fine. She stops, sets down a can of tomatoes, turns to face him. You don't trust me. The statement sits between them, stark and unambiguous. That's not. You denied the account request because you don't trust me. Her voice is level, but her eyes aren't. And I don't know what I did to make you not trust me, but clearly something changed. Jonah doesn't respond immediately. The truth. I heard you on the phone talking about timelines and plans. Feels too large to release. It's not about trust, he says instead. It's about boundaries. Boundaries. She repeats the word like it's unfamiliar. We're married. We're supposed to be a unit. But you're treating our finances like we're roommates. We've always had separate savings. That was before you lost your job. Before things got uncertain. She crosses her arms. I'm trying to help, and you're shutting me out. I'm not shutting you out. Then what are you doing? The question hangs there, demanding an answer he can't give without exposing everything. I'm being careful, he says finally. Careful of what? Me. Careful of making decisions I can't undo. Ao stares at him. Something shifts in her expression, not softening, but recalibrating. What does that mean? It means things feel unstable right now. And when things feel unstable, I don't make big changes. Adding me to your account isn't a big change. It is to me. She turns back to the groceries. Resumes unpacking in silence. Jonah remains in the doorway, uncertain whether to stay or leave. After a minute, Ao speaks without looking at him. I'm not the enemy, Jonah. I never said you were. You didn't have to. Dinner doesn't happen. Ao says she's not hungry. She goes to the bedroom and closes the door. Not slammed, just closed with enough finality to convey something. Jonah orders food he doesn't eat. He sits on the couch scrolling through his phone, not reading anything, just giving his hands something to do. At 9 p.m., he hears Ao on the phone again. Her voice is low but audible through the door. Can't keep doing this, she's saying. I know, but he's acting paranoid now. Pause. I don't know what triggered it, but he denied the request and got defensive when I asked about it. Another pause. Longer. No, I don't think he knows. If he knew, he wouldn't be playing these games. He'd just, she stops. Look, we need to move faster. The longer this drags out, the more complicated it gets. Jonah's hand tightens around his phone. I'll figure it out, Ao continues. Just give me a few more days. The conversation ends. Jonah hears movement. Then the bedroom door opens. Ao emerges in pajamas, face washed, hair pulled back. She looks at him on the couch. I'm sorry about earlier. I overreacted. It's okay. It's not. She sits on the opposite end of the couch. I've been stressed, and I took it out on you. That wasn't fair. Jonah nods. Says nothing. Can we just? She gestures vaguely between them. Can we hit reset? Start tomorrow fresh. Yeah, sure. She smiles. Small, tentative. Okay, good. She stands. I'm going to bed. You coming? In a bit. After she's gone, Jonah sits in the dark living room, his phone in his hand. He opens his document, the one he thought he'd deleted. It's still there, backed up in the cloud. He adds, Friday, 9:23 p.m. Overheard conversation. Move faster. He's acting paranoid. Just give me a few more days. Then he opens his contacts. Finds Miss Chen's number. He doesn't call. Not yet. But he types out a draft message. Need to schedule a consultation. As soon as possible. He stares at it for 5 minutes. Then he deletes it. Then he types it again. This time, he doesn't delete it. He just leaves it there, unsent, while the apartment settles into silence around him. At 11:30, he goes to the bedroom. AO is asleep, or performing sleep. He gets into bed carefully, staying on his side, maintaining the space between them that's become standard. In the darkness, he makes a decision. Monday, he'll send the message to Ms. Chen. He'll set the process in motion. Not because he wants to, because waiting feels more dangerous than acting. But before he does that, he'll give AO one more chance. One direct question. One opportunity to be honest. He'll ask her what she's planning. And depending on how she answers, or whether she answers at all, he'll know whether the marriage ended weeks ago, or if there's still something left to save. Beside him, AO shifts in her sleep. Her hand moves across the space between them, stopping just short of touching him. Jonah watches the ceiling, counting breaths, waiting for morning. Saturday morning arrives without ceremony. Jonah wakes to find AO's side of the bed empty, the sheets already cool. He hears her voice from the living room. Another phone call, the words indistinct but the rhythm familiar by now. He stays in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the question he's decided to ask. The words need to be right. Too aggressive, and she'll deflect. Too vague, and she'll misunderstand. Or pretend to. When he finally gets up, AO is on the couch, laptop open, coffee mug beside her. She looks up and smiles. Morning. I made coffee. Thanks. He pours himself a cup and sits in the armchair across from her. Not beside her. The distance feels intentional now. Every choice of position a statement. They exist in parallel for an hour. AO types intermittently. Jonah scrolls through news he doesn't absorb. The silence isn't comfortable, but it isn't hostile either. It's just what they've become. Around 10, AO closes her laptop. I need to run some errands. You need anything? This is the moment. He can feel it. The opening for the question he's been preparing. Actually, he says, can we talk first? Something flickers across her face. Sure. What's up? He sets his coffee down. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Her posture shifts almost imperceptibly. Straighter. More guarded. Okay. Are you planning to leave? The words land cleanly, no ambiguity. AO's face doesn't change immediately. She processes the question like she's translating it from another language. Leave, she repeats. Like, leave the apartment? Leave the marriage. Silence expands between them. AO's hands fold together in her lap, fingers interlacing with deliberate precision. Why would you ask me that? Because I need to know. That's not an answer. Her voice is carefully neutral. What made you think I'm planning to leave? The phone calls. The conversations that stop when I walk into rooms. The way you asked about the savings account. He pauses. The way you asked if I still loved you, like you were testing something. AO's jaw tightens. I asked because I wanted to know. Not because I'm planning anything. Then what are you planning? Nothing. AO. She stands abruptly. I don't know what you want me to say, Jonah. You're acting like I'm plotting something when I've just been trying to deal with work stress and help us manage financially. Then who's M? The question comes out before he fully decides to ask it. AO freezes. What? The person who texted you last week. Did you tell him yet? Who is M, and what was I supposed to be told? Her face goes carefully blank. That was about work. Maya was asking if I'd told you about the extended hours. You already told me about the extended hours. Days before that text. Then it was about something else. I don't remember every conversation I have, Jonah. But her voice has changed. Flatter. More mechanical. The voice of someone following a script rather than speaking spontaneously. Jonah stands too. They face each other across the coffee table, the distance between them suddenly feeling vast. I heard you, he says quietly. On the balcony. Multiple times. Talking about timelines. About plans. About waiting until things stabilized. AO's expression doesn't crack. You were eavesdropping on my private conversations? I was in my own home, and you weren't exactly whispering. So you've been spying on me. collecting evidence, building a case. She shakes her head. And you wonder why I don't share everything with you. I'm not the one being dishonest here. Neither am I. Then tell me the truth. What are you planning? I already told you. Nothing. They stare at each other. Jonah recognizes this moment, the point where one of them usually backs down, apologizes, lets the tension dissolve into manufactured normalcy. He's done it dozens of times. Maybe hundreds. Not today. I don't believe you, he says. Ao's face finally shifts. Not to anger. To something colder. Then we have a bigger problem than I thought. We've had a bigger problem for a while. I'm just the only one pretending we don't. She picks up her phone and keys. I'm going out. We can talk about this when we've both calmed down. I am calm. You're accusing me of planning to leave you based on fragments of conversations you overheard out of context. Then give me the context. I don't owe you an explanation for every private conversation I have. You do when those conversations are about our marriage. Ao walks to the door, stops with her hand on the knob. You lied to me about losing your job. The words drop like stones. Jonah's breath catches. What? She turns to face him. Her expression is unreadable. You didn't lose your job. You've been going to work this whole time. I called your office on Tuesday. Rebecca said you'd been there every day this week. The apartment tilts slightly. Jonah grips the back of the armchair. You called my work? I was worried about you. You seemed off. So I called to see if there was anything I could do to help. Maybe talk to HR about severance or references. She crosses her arms. Imagine my surprise when they told me you were currently in a meeting. So you've known since Tuesday? Yes. And you didn't say anything? No. Because I wanted to see what you were doing. What you were testing. She tilts her head slightly. And now I know. You lied to me to see how I'd react. You wanted to see if I'd leave when things got hard. Jonah feels his carefully constructed observations crumbling. That's exactly what it is. You manufactured a crisis to test my loyalty. Her voice remains level, almost clinical. And when I didn't react the way you wanted, when I tried to be supportive instead of panicking, you decided that proved I was planning something. You were planning something. You were planning something. The only thing I've been planning is how to handle being married to someone who doesn't trust me enough to just ask a question instead of staging an elaborate test. She opens the door. Where are you going? Jonah asks. Out. Like I said. When will you be back? I don't know. The door closes behind her. Not slammed. Just closed with the finality of someone who's made a decision they've been postponing. Jonah stands in the empty apartment, his heart beating too fast, trying to reconstruct what just happened. She knew. She's known for days. Which means every concerned text, every supportive gesture, every moment of intimacy, all of it was performance. Or was it? He sits down heavily on the couch, pulls out his phone, opens the document where he's been recording everything. He reads through his entries, seeing them differently now. The patterns he thought he'd identified, do they prove what he thought they proved? Or did he arrange isolated moments into a narrative that confirmed what he already suspected? She asked about the savings account, but maybe she really was worried about emergencies. She took calls in private, but maybe that really was work. She talked about timelines, but maybe that was about projects, not the marriage. Or maybe none of that is true. Maybe he was right the first time, and this, her revelation about knowing, her reframing of his actions, is just a more sophisticated deflection. He doesn't know anymore. He opens his messages. The draft to Ms. Chun is still there, unsent. He reads it again. Need to schedule a consultation. As soon as possible. His thumb hovers over the send button. He thinks about what Ao said. You lied to me to see how I'd react. He thinks about what Ms. Chun asked. Can you live with yourself if you keep testing her instead of just asking? He thinks about the moment before he told the lie. Sitting at a traffic light, staring at a crack in his windshield, the sentence forming in his head fully assembled. He didn't plan it, but he spoke it anyway, and everything that followed cascaded from that single decision. Jonah deletes the draft message. Then he types a new one. My wife knows I lied about losing my job. She's known for days. I need to know what this means for any potential filing. He sends it before he can reconsider. The response comes 20 minutes later. Come in Monday. 9 a.m. We need to talk about your options. Jonah sets his phone down. He goes to the window and looks out at the parking lot. Ao's car is gone. The space where it was parked looks smaller than it should. He thinks about the question he asked her. Are you planning to leave? He thinks about her non-answer, her deflection, her counter-accusation. And he thinks about the fact that she didn't say no. She didn't say yes either. She just left, which might be the only answer that matters. AO doesn't come home Saturday night. She texts at 11 p.m., staying at Sarah's. Need some space to think. Jonah types and deletes 3 different responses before settling on. Okay. Sunday passes in a kind of suspension. He cleans the apartment, not because it needs it, but because he needs the motion. Counters wiped down. Floors vacuumed. Dishes organized with more precision than they require. Around 3 p.m., his phone rings. Unknown number. He answers anyway. Mr. Adeyemi? This is Jennifer from Chun & Associates. Ms. Chin asked me to confirm your appointment for tomorrow at 9 a.m. Yes, I'll be there. Perfect. And she wanted me to let you know that given the new developments, she'd like you to bring any financial documentation you have. Bank statements, tax returns, anything showing joint or separate assets. Okay, great. See you tomorrow. The call ends. Jonah looks around the spotless apartment, feeling the weight of what's about to become official. He spends the evening gathering documents. Printouts from online accounts. Old tax returns from a file cabinet neither he nor AO has opened in months. The title to his car. Registration for hers. He creates a folder. Labels it nothing. Just leaves it on the desk, ready. At 10 p.m., another text from AO. Coming by tomorrow afternoon to get some things. We'll let you know what time. No question about whether he'll be there. No inquiry about his state of mind. Just logistics. He doesn't respond. Monday morning, he calls in sick to work. The lie comes easily now, practiced, casual. His supervisor tells him to take care of himself. He says he will. Ms. Chin's office feels different this time. More real. Less hypothetical. She reviews his documents methodically, making notes on a legal pad, occasionally asking clarifying questions. So she's known since Tuesday that you fabricated the job loss, Ms. Chin says, not looking up from the bank statements. Yes. And she didn't confront you until Saturday, after you confronted her. Right. Which means she spent 4 days observing you while knowing you were lying to her. Ms. Chin sets down her pen. That shows calculation. Or patience. In divorce proceedings, they're often the same thing. She leans back. Here's what I'm seeing. You have approximately $43,000 in personal savings. She has about $18,000 in hers. Joint checking has $2,200. No property, no kids, minimal debt. Okay. California is a community property state. Anything earned during the marriage gets split 50-50 unless you can prove separate property status. Your savings existed before the marriage, correct? Most of it. Maybe $30,000 was pre-marriage. Can you prove that? Jonah thinks. I have old statements. Somewhere. Find them. That $30,000 would remain yours. The rest is community property. She flips through more pages. The cars are financed, roughly equal value. You'll each keep your own, most likely. Student loans are in individual names, so those stay individual. So what are we talking about? In terms of, he can't quite say the word settlement. You'd likely keep about $35,000 to $37,000 of your savings. She'd get about $6,000 to $8,000 from yours, plus her own 18. You'd each walk away with your respective cars and debts. No spousal support necessary since you both work and the marriage is short. She pauses. It's a clean separation, financially speaking. How long does the process take? If it's uncontested, 6 months minimum. That's California law, mandatory waiting period. If she contests anything, longer. Could be a year or more if things get contentious. And if I file first, you control the narrative. You establish the timeline. And given that she now knows you lied, there's an argument to be made that filing first shows you're taking responsibility for the breakdown rather than reacting defensively. Jonah absorbs this. What do I need to do? Ms. Chin pulls out a form. We start with a petition for dissolution of marriage. I'll need you to fill out your information, and we'll need to specify grounds. California is no fault, so we cite irreconcilable differences. Once it's filed, she has 30 days to respond. During that time, we'll work on the financial disclosures and settlement agreement. She slides the form across the desk. You don't have to decide right now, she adds. You can take this home, think about it. But based on what you've told me, the overheard conversations, her request for account access, her calculated response to your lie, I think you know where this is headed. Jonah looks at the form. Empty boxes waiting to be filled. His information on one side. AO's on the other. The marriage reduced to fields and checkboxes. What if I'm wrong? He asks quietly. What if she really was just dealing with work stress, and I've manufactured this whole crisis? Then you'll have paid for a consultation and some legal advice. But Mr. Adeyemi, Ms. Chin's expression is not unkind. In my experience, when someone asks whether they should get divorced, they've usually already made the decision. They're just looking for permission. I'm not looking for permission. No, you're looking for certainty. And the truth is, you'll never have complete certainty about what she was planning. But you have enough evidence to make an informed decision. She taps the form. Take this with you. If you decide to file, call me. If you decide to try to work things out, I'd recommend a good marriage counselor. Either way, you need to stop existing in this limbo. Jonah takes the form, folds it carefully, puts it in his folder with the other documents. Thank you, he says. One more thing. Ms. Chun pulls out a business card, different from hers. This is a process server. If you file, you'll need someone to serve AO the papers. It's legally required and has to be done by a third party. Don't try to do it yourself. He takes the card, adds it to his folder. When he gets home, the apartment is still empty. AO's text said afternoon, but it's only 11:30. He has time. He sits at the desk and opens the folder. Looks at the form Ms. Chin gave him. The header reads, Petition for Dissolution of Marriage. His hand hovers over it for a long moment. Then he opens his laptop instead. He pulls up the old bank statements Ms. Chun asked for, the ones showing his savings balance from before the marriage. It takes 20 minutes to find them in archived emails. He prints them, adds them to the folder. Then he sits back and thinks about what happens next. If he files, AO will be served papers within a few days. She'll know he's serious. She'll hire her own lawyer. The process will become formal, procedural, irreversible. If he doesn't file, they remain in this strange stasis, married but separate, together but isolated. His phone buzzes. AO, be there around 2. Won't stay long. He checks the time. 2 hours. He picks up the form again, reads through it carefully. The questions are straightforward. Name, address, date of marriage, grounds for dissolution. He uncaps a pen. Then he sets it down. He can't fill this out before she arrives. It feels cowardly somehow, to have the papers ready, the decision made, before seeing her face. Instead, he waits. At 2:15, he hears her key in the lock. She comes in carrying a duffel bag, empty, presumably to fill with clothes and toiletries. She looks tired. Her hair is pulled back messily. She's wearing the same clothes from Saturday. Hey, she says. Hey. They stand in the living room, the space between them filled with everything they haven't said. I'm just getting some things, AO says. Work clothes for the week. Bathroom stuff. Okay. She moves toward the bedroom. Jonah follows, stopping in the doorway. He watches her pack methodically, clothes folded, stacked, arranged in the duffel with practiced efficiency. She doesn't look at him. After a few minutes, she speaks without pausing her packing. I've been thinking about what you asked, whether I'm planning to leave. Jonah waits. The answer is, she stops folding mid-motion. I don't know. I wasn't planning to, but I think I've been considering it without admitting it to myself. Considering it how? Just imagining what it would look like. Whether I'd be happier. Whether you'd be happier. She resumes packing. The conversations you heard, they were with my sister. The one you call Maya. She's been telling me for months that we seem disconnected. That I deserve better. Better than what? Better than someone who would lie to me to test whether I'd stay. She zips the duffel, turns to face him. But I understand why you did it. Because I've been distant. I've been distracted. And maybe some part of me has been checking out without realizing it. The admission sits between them. So what happens now? Jonah asks. AO shoulders the duffel. I need some time. A week, maybe more. To figure out what I actually want instead of what I think I should want. And then we talk. Really talk. Not accusations and deflections. Just honesty. She moves toward the door. Stops beside him. I need you to know, I never planned to take your money. I never planned anything calculated like that. I was just trying to help, and you saw manipulation because you were already looking for it. Maybe. Not maybe. You were. She looks at him directly. But I also wasn't being honest about how unhappy I've been. So we're both at fault here. She leaves without waiting for a response. Jonah listens to her car start, pull away, fade into traffic. Then he goes back to the desk, opens the folder, looks at the form. He picks up the pen. This time, he starts writing. The form sits on his desk, half completed, for 3 days. Jonah fills in his information. Date of marriage. Current address. Then he stops at the section asking for separation date. He doesn't know what to put. Saturday, when she left. Monday, when she took her things. Some earlier moment he didn't recognize at the time. He leaves it blank. Wednesday evening, Ms. Chin's office calls. Jennifer again. Just checking in to see if you've made any decisions. Still thinking, Jonah says. Of course. Just wanted to remind you that if you do decide to file, we'll need the completed petition at least a few days before you want service to occur. Understood. He hangs up, looks at the form, folds it back into the folder, closes the folder. Thursday, AO texts. How are you doing? The question feels genuine. Or maybe he's just stopped being able to tell. Fine. You? Managing. 3 dots appear. Disappear. Appear again. I've been seeing a therapist. Just started. Thought you should know. Jonah stares at the message. That's good. She suggested we might try couples counseling. If we decide we want to try to fix things. Do you want to try to fix things? The dots appear and stay visible for almost a minute. Then, I don't know yet. But I think I want to, if that makes sense. It does. Can we talk this weekend? In person? Yeah. Saturday afternoon? Coffee somewhere neutral? Okay. The conversation ends there. Jonah sets his phone down and realizes his hands are shaking slightly. Friday at work, his supervisor stops by his desk again. How are you feeling? You've seemed a bit off lately. Just dealing with some personal stuff. Jonah says. Anything you want to talk about? Not really. But I appreciate you asking. She nods. Well, your performance hasn't suffered. So whatever you're doing to manage it, keep it up. But remember, we have employee assistance programs if you need them. Counseling, legal advice, that kind of thing. After she leaves, Jonah looks up the employee assistance program. He could get 3 free counseling sessions, or a consultation with a different lawyer for a second opinion. He bookmarks the page. Doesn't call. That evening, he goes to the crack in his windshield, the one that started all of this. He finally makes an appointment to get it repaired. Saturday morning, first thing. Saturday arrives cold and overcast. Jonah gets the windshield fixed. The technician finishes in 45 minutes. The glass is clear, unmarked, like the crack never existed. He drives to the coffee shop they agreed on. AO is already there, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups in front of her. She waves when she sees him. I got you a latte, she says as he sits. I hope that's still okay. Yeah, thanks. They sit across from each other, both holding their cups, neither drinking yet. You look tired, AO says. So do you. A small smile. Yeah. Silence settles. Not uncomfortable. Just present. I've been thinking a lot. AO starts. About what you said. About trust. And I think you were right that I've been holding things back from you. Not because I was planning to leave, but because I didn't know how to talk about being unhappy without it sounding like an accusation. What were you unhappy about? Us. The routine. The way we'd stopped being curious about each other. She rotates her cup slowly. I felt like we were coasting. Like we were married because we'd already made the commitment, not because we were choosing each other every day. Jonah absorbs this. Why didn't you just say that? I don't know. I think I was afraid that if I said it out loud, it would make it more real, and then I'd have to decide what to do about it. She looks up. What about you? When did you start not trusting me? He thinks back. I'm not sure there was a specific moment. It was more like small things that didn't make sense individually. But when I put them together, they formed a pattern. A pattern that might not have been real. Maybe. Or maybe it was real, but I misinterpreted what it meant. AO nods slowly. My sister, Maya, she's been telling me for a while that I should consider leaving. Not because you're bad, but because she thinks I'm settling. That I got married young and didn't explore what else might be out there. Is that what the phone calls were about? Some of them. She was pushing me to make a decision. To either fully commit or fully leave. Stop being in the middle. And the conversations about timelines? That was about whether to stay in my job or take a position in Portland. It would have meant relocating. I would have had to ask if you'd come with me, and I didn't know if you would. I didn't even know if I wanted you to. She pauses. So I kept putting off the decision, and Maya kept pushing me to stop waiting for perfect conditions. You never mentioned Portland, because I didn't know how to bring it up. And then you said you lost your job, and I thought. She stops. I thought maybe this was the universe telling me to stay, that you needed me, so I should stop thinking about myself. Jonah sets his cup down. I'm sorry I lied to you. I'm sorry I wasn't honest about being unhappy. They sit with that for a moment. I filed a petition for divorce, Jonah says quietly. Ao's expression doesn't change. When? Wednesday. It's sitting on my desk. Not submitted. Just filled out. Are you going to submit it? I don't know. Are you going to take the job in Portland? I don't know. The honesty feels almost refreshing after weeks of evasion. My therapist asked me what I wanted, Ao says. Not what I think I should want, or what would make sense, or what would be easiest. Just what I actually want. What did you say? I said I wanted to feel excited about my life again. To wake up and feel like things were happening instead of just continuing. She looks at him. What do you want? Jonah considers the question, really considers it. I want to stop feeling like I'm waiting for something to go wrong. I want to trust that when someone says they're okay, they actually are. So we want different things. Maybe. Or maybe we want the same thing in different directions. Ao almost laughs. That's very diplomatic. I've been practicing. They finish their coffee in companionable silence. When they stand to leave, Ao hesitates. What happens now? She asks. I don't know. What do you want to happen? I think, she stops. Starts again. I think I need to see if I still want to be married to you. Or if I want to be married to the idea of being married. And how do you figure that out? I don't know. Therapy, probably. Time. Maybe couples counseling if you're open to it. I am. Okay. She touches his arm briefly. Can we check in next week? See how we're both feeling. Yeah. They walk to their cars separately. Before getting in, Ao calls across the parking lot. Jonah. He turns. Thank you for not submitting the petition yet. Thank you for not taking the Portland job yet. She smiles, small, uncertain, but real. Then she gets in her car and drives away. Jonah sits in his for a few minutes, looking at his clear windshield. The crack is gone. The glass looks perfect. But he knows where it was, can almost see the ghost of the damage even though it's been erased. When he gets home, he takes the petition from his desk. He reads through what he filled out. All the information correct. All the boxes checked. Then he takes it to the kitchen and feeds it through the paper shredder. Not because he's decided to stay married. Not because he trusts Ao completely now. But because if the marriage is going to end, it should end because they chose honesty over silence. Not because he manufactured a test she couldn't pass. 2 weeks later, they start couples counseling. The sessions are awkward, difficult, sometimes painful. They talk about trust, about communication, about the difference between being committed and being present. Ao decides not to take the Portland job. Not because of Jonah, she's careful to say, but because she realizes running towards something new won't fix what's incomplete in her. Jonah stops tracking her movements in his phone, stops recording dates and times. The document gets deleted, actually deleted this time, not just closed. They don't move back in together immediately. Ao keeps staying with her sister most nights. But she comes over twice a week. They cook dinner together. They talk. Sometimes they argue. Sometimes they sit in silence that feels less loaded than it used to. 3 months later, sitting in their therapist's office, Ao says something that shifts the ground between them. I think I wanted you to fail the test, she admits. The one I didn't realize I was giving you. I wanted you to be selfish or cold or something that would make leaving easier. And when you were just careful, I didn't know what to do with that. And now, the therapist asks, now I'm trying to figure out if careful is enough. Or if we need to be something more than careful to make this work. Jonah doesn't have an answer. Neither does the therapist. They leave the session separately. But when Jonah gets home, there's a text from Ao, I think I want to come home. Not today, but soon. If that's okay. He reads it 3 times. Then he responds, yeah, that's okay. He doesn't know if they'll make it. Neither does she. The lie he told revealed cracks that can't be unfractured. The distance she maintained created space that might never fully close. But sitting in his apartment, their apartment, Jonah realizes that maybe certainty isn't the goal. Maybe the goal is just deciding, every day, whether to keep trying. He looks around at the space that's too quiet without her, too empty, too still. And he thinks that maybe, if she comes back, they can learn to exist in it together without one of them always listening for footsteps leaving. Maybe.